listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AfterBuzz TV's The Walking Dead After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's The Walking Dead After Show.
And blam! We'll get to that in a second. All right,
No!
so guys, we're doing Walking Dead After Show, and oh my god, what an amazing end to the episode. But let me just start by saying Bing is for doing, and we're doing the Walking Dead After Show. And to my left, the ever so lovely Kristin Carole.
Hey, walkers.
And also so lovely in purple, Derrial Christon.
What's up, walkers?
I think it's his color. And guys, right next to me, Nando Velasquez.
Hey guys, how you doing? This is my normal voice. It's back.
It's back.
I kind of like your zombie voice. It was very thematic.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll bring it back next week.
And guys, I am Dave Klein, and let's just jump right to the fact that we shouldn't have guests on our show anymore. I think that
Clearly not.
No.
We can't do it.
So sad.
First Oscar and now
Now Lou.
Yeah, so we had Vincent on our show literally the week before he died, and then he was on our show again for that, and then now last week we had Lou on our show, and I think we all screamed out, Lou!
Yeah.
We didn't, now that we know him, instead of saying Axel, we were like, no!
That was heartbreaking.
I really did not see that coming.
I did not see that coming at all. I mean, I think I'm still a little jittery from that scene. I want to go back home and watch it again after
I will
we
say,
get off the air.
Out of all the people who have died so far, that seems to be the most memorable death, because that's the first non-zombie death from a main character that we've had.
Well, Oscar died from a non-zombie death, but it was like very quickly rushed.
I feel like we didn't get to know Oscar as much as we got to know Axel, though. Axel was a favorite.
Well, he also didn't get shot in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right when he's hitting on Carole.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and we were so involved with the scene because they were having that emotional connection, and then bam, you know, out of nowhere.
Well, when he was
so
talking
cute.
to us, he was like talking about how his character was angry at Rick and all this certain things, and I was expecting, okay, so they're gonna give him kind of an arc.
Yeah.
And he's talking about gambling and how he's a liar and all that, and I said the dice on his neck. I'm like, oh, so he's telling another story how he's the one who had probably. Never mind.
Right.
Yep, gone.
I just did not see that coming.
There were a few people I thought were maybe going to die at some point during it, and I did not think him. I didn't think that at all.
Yeah, I even was thinking possibly Herschel tonight for some reason.
Glenn.
Just the way they were setting it up.
Yeah.
You know, clearly they just decided that this would be the episode you get to really know and like him even more.
Yeah.
Just to screw with you.
Just to screw
Just
with
to
you.
be like, oh well, ha ha ha, now that you know him really well.
And then
Comic relief is gone a little bit.
yeah.
I think he's the funniest character. I love, a bunch of other characters, but they're not funny.
Yeah, and then
Or as funny.
we were saying when we were watching it, is Carole like almost like the Black Widow? You know, I mean, we find out of course later that Daryl's came back, but obviously tonight with Lou and as Axel, and then with her kind of history with men, it seems like she sort of kills guys off in some weird kind of a way, So.
But he saved her.
He did save her.
In a way.
He did save her.
Even after death.
Even after death.
So we will definitely get back to more on this when we get to the event on the show, but let's go ahead and rewind a bit and start talking about Woodbury and sort of what led to this in the first place. And the first scene that we get, which actually really does lead to this, is the governor coming to have a little chat with Andrea and telling her that he's not planning any sort of retaliation. Nothing's in the works at all. And I mean, what did you guys take from the scene? What did you guys take away?
Well, I didn't trust him at all.
Yeah, he's
so,
a liar.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much that he can say that I honestly would believe anyway. I thought it was just a complete setup to even see, kind of testing her to see where her loyalty was. And if she had said, the minute I felt like she said that she would go back to Rick's team, he would have killed her. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
Or somehow had her killed.
I was a little more gullible. I kind of believed him for some reason. I felt, but of course it doesn't make sense because we're all being led to believe right now that there's going to be a confrontation between the two camps.
Right.
But I thought that what was interesting about the way he was doing it, I figured it might set something up where Glenn, because then we see Glenn later on, not to get too far ahead, wanting to attack.
Yeah.
So I almost thought like, wow, this would be amazing if the governor actually cooled his jets a little bit.
And Glenn messed it up.
And Glenn messed it up.
His rage gets him killed.
And it would kind of be a big switch up from the comics too, for those of you who are comic readers, without spoiling too much. If they had gone that route, which they decided not to.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've kind of figured too that I didn't believe him at all, and that's just kind of coming from a comic reader here from that perspective.
That's true.
I could understand how Andrea would believe him though, because David Morrissey, great actor.
Oh yeah.
I if I was her, I was trying to view it from her point of view, where it was this great guy. He had a little bit of problems, but then he comes back and he's very charming.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, he definitely set it up well, but I just never believed him.
But how awesome is it that he is in that scene giving Andrea control?
Yeah.
More or less,
Very
giving
smart.
her, making her, in fact, a figurehead for the town, where he ends
but he
up,
did that so he could go and do his little thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
He gets to. He said he couldn't control the town, and now he's given her the responsibility to control the town, while he gets to do whatever he wants to do.
And we do get that scene, Kristin, where Andrea's at the wall looking for Martinez and can't find them. Nobody from the town's really willing even to help her. Karen won't help her. Milton doing a pretty poor job there at acting, trying to act like it. And
he's checking his pulse because she scared him.
Yeah. Well, Milton's scared of everything. He was scared of his talk with the governor. He's scared of Andrea. I mean,
let's jump on that talk with the governor though, because that was kind of an uncomfortable for Milton scene.
Yeah.
He just not sure what to say, just wanting to appease him in any way.
Yeah.
What a great friendship.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm scared of all
If
my
you don't do
friends.
what I say, I'll kill you.
He lives on fear. Yeah, his reign is based on fear, so that's what he does.
I thought he was gonna kill him. Honestly, like when I saw him do the scene, I thought he was gonna kill him just because he said, "You've been an invaluable asset." And now that his daughter's dead, he has no reason to keep him alive anymore.
Yeah, and that's a good point.
That's a good point.
Because it's just the governor's just using people, and that really was what we kind of got from Andrea's the conversation with Andrea. He was really hoping all along there would be a cure or something could be figured out, and now it's not. So who gives a crap?
Yeah, but I think at this stage, with the way that that Woodbury people are freaking out, I don't think it would be smart for him to kill Milton, because it's going to cause more chaos. People are going to ask more questions, and I think that he's still trying to get his group back together off of the fear that they just had and experienced. So I don't think he would have necessarily killed him right now, because it would have been too many questions to answer.
He needs, the more friends he has, the better.
Yeah.
It works no matter who his friends are, because Milton may be able, although he's not a fighter, he may be able to do something else to help, the governor's cause.
Well, he's very scientific. It's possible he probably helps out with medical facilities as well, or something like that. I'm sure.
I mean, we have seen that he figured out ways to protect themselves from the walkers, and he was the one who made a lot of the breakthroughs. Like,
he did.
There's what they were wearing on their arms. The what's that kitchenware that they were putting on their arms the whole time?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
The wrap that you usually use that's silver and shiny.
Yeah.
Duct tape?
Tinfoil.
Oh.
They were using tinfoil to protect themselves from biters.
Stephen, though, you bring up a good point. There should be more duct tape, because the biters, walkers, they can't get to them with the duct tape. If you've noticed, every time somebody's had it, Glenn, Milton, it helps them.
Yeah.
Duct tape is a universal cure for just about anything.
It really is.
Yeah, it really is.
Brought to you by duct tape.
Right.
But yeah, so that was nice. But that's what we're now brought to you by. Let's start doing
Instead
that.
of KFC, they should have a duct
Duct
tape
tape.
commercial.
Let's start asking for sponsors.
You heard it first on AfterBuzz Walking Dead After Show.
That's gonna be my outfit next week, guys.
But I do think Milton still has a place, and I didn't really think that he was going to kill him off. It's just that this is one less use he has for him, and that kind of is where it stands. And now it's kind of just, I think he was also walking to see if he could use Milton further. Like, hey, you're going to take a bullet for me, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, smart answer, Milton. I wouldn't have said no in that particular moment, that's for sure.
He definitely wasn't too convincing.
Wasn't too convincing, though. Yeah.
So, I mean, that was kind of what the whole thing ends with, though, is Andrea not sure where they've gone off to. They're just on some run. I don't know where. Maybe they're doing an ammo run, but they're on a run. So let's go ahead and jump to Daryl and Merle, who are arguing over food and what to do, and Daryl's kind of finally sticking up for himself. And he's standing up to Merle the whole time, and you're kind of just seeing them fight over what to do, where they should go, what direction they're heading, if like who actually knows hunting and gathering skills better at this point too. So a lot of inner brother turmoil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I loved how even the camera angle just showed that Daryl was up close and you could really see his emotions just in his face and how he was looking around, and Merle's in the background. And I think that also kind of showed their difference now, that Merle is in the background and you have Daryl in the forefront, kind of taking lead.
Yeah.
Well, Daryl was
Yeah,
talking a lot. Merle is someone who has to control everything, and Daryl was just going toe to toe with him and everything. And what was amazing too was just how upbeat Daryl was in general, and how it's almost like Merle's the prodigal son, and Daryl's just being super nice to him and trying to talk to him and just trying slightly convince him to come back to the prison or just to do things differently. I just love the way those two were interacting, especially in the beginning. And I love how Merle was fighting Daryl on every single thing.
Yeah, he was.
You know, Daryl could have said, "The sky's blue," and Merle would have said, "You're an idiot. The sky's gray."
Yeah.
It's every single step of the way. And of course, Merle was wrong on every single
Every
thing.
time.
But I do love how Daryl's just planting all these little digs in at Merle the entire time too, and it's kind of telling him. I mean, eventually, and we'll get to it, but just the thing about the handcuffs and all of that. But before all that happens, Daryl hears a baby crying in the distance, and what ears, man, to be able to hear that from a car all the way in the distance on the bridge.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty quiet out there now, though.
Yeah, that's true. You just hear occasional moans, I guess, and that's
Carole
about
talked
it.
about that last week.
And it still was a lot of chaos because obviously when you're going to tell the story, but with the family that was there, they were running from the walkers, so there was some rumbling up there, so that caught his attention as well.
Yeah. So they run up and they find that there's this band of people who we've never seen before fighting off a zombie attack, kind of just one of those walker, when they a walker horde coming at them, and Daryl decides to go help them despite Merle's protests. Yeah. So Merle's not happy about it, but Daryl has to do it, and Daryl kind of comes just at the right moment as a zombie is trying to bite into one of the Hispanic guy's legs.
Yeah. I was on the edge of my seat that whole time because it was like the walker kept grabbing the leg. I was like, oh, don't do it. Don't do it. Oh, don't do it. I did not want to see that scene.
And what about that one death, that zombie death with the back of the trunk of the
Oh, that was
Oh,
good.
we all screamed like,
That was,
oh!
that was my favorite, actually. That was my
an
favorite
awesome
zombie scene.
that was an awesome kill. Yeah.
That was definitely the best. And something I want to point out that kind of bothered me is and Merle was kind of like watching, like, what are you doing? When the guy was actually trying to kill the zombie, he was stabbing at him in the stomach. And then he's like, how do you not know at this point, if you're still alive, that you have to hit them in the head? I mean, like, he was clearly doing it in the wrong spot.
Yeah. Not enough practice.
How do you not know?
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean, Merle's watching him like he's an idiot, and it's just like that whole thing where we were watching the prisoners and they had no idea and they were just trying to shiv all the zombies to death. But it's the same sort of thing, but you have to assume with a group like this that they've been on the run for a while.
Yeah.
So
why do you think that they
know.
actually introduced that? But they didn't really introduce the family name. We didn't really get a connection with them. We just knew that they were kind of passing through. Why do you think that they actually put that family even in that scene? Do you think it was to have us learn more about the relationship between Merle and Daryl, because eventually a lot was revealed after that scene between those two, or because we didn't really find anything out about that family?
I think it showed a lot. I was going to say, I think it serves really the relationship between Merle and Daryl. First of all, Merle's a racist. So what better rescue mission can you put Daryl on than to rescue a family that can't even speak English?
True. Yeah.
And even the baby being there. I mean, Merle has no compassion at all. So having the mother with the baby, it's just another trigger that Merle doesn't care about.
Yeah.
I thought it was less about their relationship and more about the fact that this was the trigger that got Daryl to realize that he should go back to the prison.
Yeah.
And seeing the baby, that's the baby he left, and I think he feels a little bit of guilt leaving his family.
Yeah.
True.
I think there's a lot of that, but I think a lot of it was also the whole moment with Merle going ahead and scavenging and trying to like take supplies for them. And that moment where, I mean, it was kind of a change, showing that Daryl has changed, which we got in the next scene, but that Daryl didn't want to do this anymore, and Merle didn't get that. And you have to assume this is something Daryl would have done in the past, that he wouldn't have complained about. That's probably how they survived in the past, that Daryl's just not doing, because Daryl has grown this compassion and has changed. So I think a lot of it, too, was to show that change in Daryl.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, I think they could have still had that conversation. I do think you're right that it was a trigger to make it happen, but I think a lot of it was to even just show that change. And I guess it really is that trigger show not tell.
And we got to see Merle's intentions. Merle wanted to loot the family. He wanted to loot the car.
Yeah.
And then he told him later we were supposed to loot the camp. That was their intention. If he wasn't locked up on that roof, handcuffed to that roof, they possibly would have loot the camp and then just ran off.
Yeah.
Well, with smart writing like this, I always there is those reasons and everything with this scene, but I always try to look behind that and think, well, what else? There's new people coming in. Whenever there's new people, they kind of make a big deal about it, and this was kind of like in and out, but it also reminds the viewers that there are other civilizations going around, because we have the people who came into the prison, and we didn't see them this episode, but now we have another group of people that they'll probably pull back later, because there are other communities around there that we're not really even hearing about right now.
And I think even on top of that, it's been a long time since we've really seen zombie or walkers being a threat in the show. And I was kind of thinking about that at the end when we had the truck dump off the walkers, which we'll get into. But it's been a long time since we've even seen them as a threat, because they've kind of just been this easy thing now that you just plow over. So I think it's to show that, hey, these are still out there. These are still a threat. Even though you got the whole human-on-human thing going on, there is still this element of the walkers as a threat. And I think that was a big aspect. And on the chat, Moonlit had a fun suggestion, which was people in the middle of a zombie infestation should probably wear chainmail armor like old soldiers. If they can find it. I think, why not?
Just go to medieval times. Just find the nearest medieval times and just grab it.
I just drove by that on my way up here today. I should have picked up some armor.
There you go.
Hey, for next week.
What were you thinking?
I know.
One thing I did like about this scene is that I felt like we got to know a little bit more about the history of Merle and Daryl, and as far as them growing up, because when they get into the fight and Daryl takes off his shirt, you can see, obviously we see his tattoos first, and then we see the part where he has the
like whips.
Like whips on his back.
I'm sure it was a belt. Probably
and then we find out more that their father was abusing them.
That's really Norman Reedus' tattoo, by the way. That's his real tattoo.
Oh, it is.
So that was
so
not...
Nando, you've seen him shirtless.
What a lucky man! Wow.
I read it. I read it somewhere.
Sure.
Kristin wants to know more
Yeah,
about
she does.
this
I know.
immediately.
You know what?
Just for the ladies out there.
Lou showers with him. So why don't you just call
Lou
Lou
does
up?
shower with him.
Yes, he said
We
he
did find that out.
Yes.
Another great thing that was revealed in that scene of Merle and Daryl's argument and Daryl finally taking control and deciding to go back to the prison was that Merle and Daryl had been planning to rob the campsite the whole time, which was a big reveal that we never knew this whole time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think, again, it's highlighting that change in Daryl, that he's really has changed, because this is something that he was totally down for before.
If you rewatch season 1, as I did recently before coming on here, you do see the change from Daryl. Daryl was a little bit more of a threat in the first couple of episodes, and it's a big shift. It's a big shift from season 1, so it's pretty obvious.
It would have been interesting if they tried to loot the camp, because I was thinking about that, because you still had Shane and they had the other family with the dad. I mean, there were a bunch of people around there, unless they did it in the middle of the night and snuck off. But if there was a confrontation, I mean, I wouldn't. Shane was kind of crazy, so I wouldn't want to go up against him.
Between Shane and Rick, you know, those two against Merle and Daryl, that would have been a
well. Rick showed up when Merle probably still had that plan before Rick showed up.
Oh, even without that, Shane also, you know, now had Lori and Carl, which he was kind of making his little family. I think he would have fought big time for them. So that would have been interesting, just as a side note.
And from the chat, we've got a note on the whole change, which was from Jason21676. He's Korean, which is another big note on that change. I mean, that's another thing to show that Daryl's kind of grown up and not as much of this racist redneck that Merle's been. But Daryl does decide to just leave, and Merle, having nothing else to do, is like, crap, well, I guess I got to follow him.
And one thing, I don't want to take it from Steve, because Steve said it during the screening, is just that's the most vulnerable we ever saw Merle in that scene.
It was.
Well, I want to ask you guys a question, what you think about this. You see the people that Daryl's been with since Merle was left up on that roof, and that changed him. What if Daryl was the one that never came back, and it was Merle with Rip's group, and Daryl was with the governor? Because, I mean, it's all about the people who you're around with what happens, and Merle was with the governor, who obviously didn't care for human life. He would just take people out.
Right.
But if positions were switched, do you think Merle would have changed and Daryl would have become the one like Merle?
Daryl looked up to Merle It was pretty obvious from season 1. Daryl looked up to Merle. He wanted to go back there and get Merle in more of a way than Merle. Merle's kind of more self-sufficient. I mean, we discovered he left. He left his family. So I think Merle coming back instead of Daryl, that would have been a totally different story.
Yeah.
I think Merle would have still probably found a way to loot or abandon.
Me too.
Abandon the group.
And then if Daryl had been in the position of being part of the governor, I think he would have taken on a role of being a mercenary for the governor. I mean, he has more heart, but I think he would have taken it from the governor's point of view, as we have to protect our people.
Right.
I think
agree.
he was more open to any sort of point of view at that time.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have tortured people, though.
I don't think he would have
I
tortured
think he
people.
still had that good in him that maybe, yeah, he would have gone out to where when they went up to the army, the military men, and thought maybe that was for the good. But I think it would have gotten to him. It didn't
You
get
just
to Merle.
love Daryl. No,
You do.
Well,
She
even
does.
Merle said, like, my sweet little baby brother. And so apparently he's always had this soft side.
No, I do agree with you. I don't think he would have gone as far to torture, but I do
Yeah.
think he would have gone on raid missions to try and get
Yeah.
supplies and all
For
that.
sure. Yeah.
Well, we've
And I
seen-
think the governor would have recognized that in too, because the governor seems to recognize who will do what, and I don't think the governor would have placed him in a position to torture.
we've seen both groups torture people, though. You do remember, though, because
Oh,
we had the other one at the farm where they tied him up. I mean, we
right.
have seen
Yeah.
both
Right.
groups torture
We've
people.
also seen
That was with Shane in the picture, though. too.
Yes.
Yeah, and Shane mostly went in there and did that kind of stuff. The rest of them kind of just let him be roped up and were questioning what to do with him. None of them were really in there beating him up or sending a zombie on him.
Yeah. And
That's
I think
true.
Shane and Merle in the same group would have been very interesting.
As long as they were
Very
actually
different
on each
dynamic.
other's side. That's
Yeah.
a lot of the thing,
Yeah.
too, because Merle's on nobody's side.
Merle's on nobody's side.
He's
Yeah.
on his own side.
So let's go ahead and jump to where Daryl and Merle are heading to, which is the prison. And we come to the first scene of the episode, which is Rick surveying the prison, and he gets a little glance of Lori, heads to her grave, heads outside of the prison,
Losing it.
totally losing it, as you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we see this throughout the episode. He's just gone.
Yeah.
Well, and let's just talk about Rick for a moment, just in general.
Well, my first thought, when I said it to you guys when they showed it, all of a sudden now he has 2 guns and one of them's really big. I mean, who made that decision after
Yeah.
the last episode? Like, hey, he's waving a gun around. Let's give him a bigger one
Bigger
of
one.
too. It's cool.
And we also kind of had the reveal because when Lou was here last week, we had mentioned was it really Lori that Rick was
wouldn't
seeing?
say.
He wouldn't say.
He hinted.
Or was it a stand-in person? And clearly it was really Lori. We
Yeah.
got to see that tonight. So
Which is a nice reveal after what we talked about last week. And I liked the whole scene that we had with Herschel coming up and talking to him.
yeah.
Because, I mean, we have Michonne just kind of giving the odd look, but we finally get to see... I mean, well, I guess we finally get to have Rick talk about what's going on in his head, because we're seeing what's going on, but we get to have his perspective, and he's just completely out of it. And
Yeah.
he does actually admit to Herschel finally and tell him, yes, it was Lori on the phone, and he tells him everyone else was on the phone.
Yeah. She said Shane too, I think.
Yeah, he mentions Shane. He mentions
Yeah.
also the other
Yeah.
people in the camp who died.
Yeah.
But we finally get him at least admitting it. So the first step to
true.
recovery is...
Yeah.
That's true.
He knows he's crazy.
Acknowledgement.
My
He
name is
just-
Rick, and I am crazy.
Hi, Rick.
Well, what's interesting is, well, he spent the whole episode outside of the prison.
Yeah.
And I think when he first went outside, all of us had a little gasp. He's putting himself in danger just to chase down a ghost.
Right.
Yeah.
Although he doesn't think it's a ghost. He thinks it's a real person. But he's putting himself in danger. Herschel reminded him of that. And that conversation with Herschel, it started off so awkward.
It did.
It was like... Rick, it was almost comical how Rick was reacting, like he got his canned cotton cookie jar or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So really awkward.
But he knows that Lori's dead, so I think he knows it's a ghost, but I think he somewhat believes that she's coming back
She's
to
coming
him.
back.
Yeah.
Because you can't look at Lori walking around in a white dress.
Right.
He thinks there's a
thinking that
reason.
that's-
Yeah, he said he thinks
that
there's a
she's
reason.
coming back to visit him for something.
Well, I said what would have been a really cool scene in that is if when we finally got the reveal that it was Lori and she turns and he's kind of looking at her face, if it was a zombie that appeared,
Yeah.
just out of nowhere, or like her face was really a zombie or something like that. I was hoping that would be the case if they did.
That would be an interesting twist.
Yeah.
I really liked with Herschel and Rick, though, because with Rick, everybody's always needing Rick
Yeah.
to do things. And then when Herschel finally delivers that line, do you need any help? Like finally it's somebody like, Rick, do you need any help? And that's when he like kind of clicks and opens up and tells about Lori, because otherwise he probably wouldn't have done it, because if anyone's going to think he's crazy, the person who's actually trying to help him is not going to be the one to tell everyone else.
That's true.
Well, and we all think Glenn has taken over as leader, but I started to think that it was Herschel, because he was talking to Glenn and he was talking to Rick, and even though he's not able to physically be the leader as much as they can, because they can go out there and fight a little bit more, he's definitely pointing the head in the right direction.
It's kind of like every president has an advisor. Herschel's the advisor.
Yeah.
Whether Glenn wants him or not, he's going to advise him. He's going to try and steer him in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, going back to what you're talking about with Rick, though, I feel like with him going for Lori and what he was talking about with Lori, he acknowledges that he's crazy. I don't think he thinks that she's coming back to life. I think that he thinks he's seeing some sort of vision for what he's supposed to do. And I think he saw her by the grave, he went to the grave. He saw her by the river and he went to the river. I almost think he's looking for some sort of revelation. Or maybe he'll find something that will lead him and guide him to why he should keep going or what he should do. Because he's always looked to Lori and always asked her for advice in previous episodes. No matter what decision he made, he would always go and confirm with her, hey, am I doing the right thing? Am I making the right decision? As much as he was the leader, she was kind of the glue that held him together. So I think he's still looking for that confirmation or looking for some guidance on where to go.
Well, I agree with that too, but I also think that it's kind of what you're saying. She was the glue that held him together, so now his glue is broken. You know, it's almost like he doesn't know how to deal with it completely at all, because she was the person who held him together so much, and no one else can do that. Not even Carl can keep him together the way that Lori did.
Or Judith.
Or Judith.
I'd kind of like to know what Carl's thinking right now, because we haven't had many scenes with Carl since the end of last episode at all.
Well, let's jump on Carl, who's with Glenn, and when we first see him, and they're kind of trying to figure out where the breaches are in case of an attack. And this is kind of where we see Glenn kind of going off where Herschel's worried that he's just totally in war mode, where Glenn wants at first to go try and attack before they get attacked. And then all he wants to do is focus on the defenses, and Maggie just can't stand what's going on and just leaves pissed off. And Glenn finally consents after that to just go ahead and defend the prison, but there's tension between Glenn and Maggie. And then Glenn now on the warpath.
Yeah. I was a little, you guys can answer this for me. Why was Maggie so upset with Glenn, though? Because, I mean, she knows that everything he's doing is for her, so why is she so upset with him?
Because he wants her to tell everyone, is what it seemed like. Is like he was like, tell them what happened to you, tell them what happened to you. I think she just wanted to put it behind her and focus on being strong, but I think that's what kind of got to her.
It is. Okay.
Well, they're dealing with the stress in two completely different ways.
Yeah.
So and they're obviously not really meshing well. And Maggie was willing to do just about anything to save Glenn.
Yeah.
And watching Glenn deteriorate and turn into this person probably has her incredibly conflicted. Like she just sees how damaged she is. Like she wasn't able to help him. So I think that's part of it too.
Well, and I think also the fact that he wanted to take over and wasn't giving her a chance to figure it out herself, and that he's like, I'm gonna get him, and she's like, he didn't hurt me, and I think also the fact that, well, she ended up telling him exactly what happened, pretty much play by play, and I don't think she wanted to tell him that, obviously, but she did because finally just to get it out that way, and I think she wanted to kind of keep that private so she could figure it out instead of telling him and putting that on him. And even her saying at the end, does that make you feel better that he didn't rape me?
Right.
So he's thinking in his mind that she was raped, even though she wasn't, but it was very emotional to go through. And I think she thought even though he was helping her, it was more for him.
Right. And I think it's also what you kind of touched on, which is just this big change that Glenn has gone through too. Because at first she was happy to see him alive when they first got together, and then this sudden change in him where he's not the same person that we've seen in the first couple of seasons at all. He's a totally different person right now, and that's not who she fell in love with.
Right.
It's not the same person. So I think a lot of that is also going on through her head. And he's almost taking what happened to her harder than she is.
Yeah.
Well, and she's gonna be pissed because he wasn't there when they were attacked.
I know.
That's gonna hurt their relationship even more.
Well, I think he's gonna feel like crap even more because
I think he'll feel more like crap because he was the one who actually got Herschel.
Right.
And I think she'll probably recognize that he was the one who went ahead and saved Herschel.
Yeah.
Who was there, who she immediately ran up and kissed.
Yeah.
I think they all bonded at the end of that episode. So I think exactly Glenn went to rescue Herschel, and Maggie was grateful for that. So I don't think there's really an issue as far. And Maggie did a pretty good job defending herself at the end.
She
too.
did.
She got
They
the
all
only
did.
kill. She
Yeah.
got the only kill.
Yeah.
And it's actually
So-
something that we touched on too, while we were watching. Why didn't Glenn turn around and chase after the car?
Yeah.
Or just ram into it or
Right.
something.
But I think that's something that'll probably get him points with Maggie at the end of the day, that he chose instead to save people as opposed to he could have gone on the
Gone,
warpath.
I think it would have been a suicide mission if he went after them.
Well, it would have been.
Well,
but
it would have been.
It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
still, he was on the warpath, so it was a decision that he might have made just for that sake because he was so out there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
and I just even the fact that he was going to go and try and take the governor out himself wasn't very smart. I mean, the governor's got an army.
Yeah.
You know, like what are you going to? I mean, Glenn might be able to get a few people out, but he can't handle that team by himself.
Well, we still don't know where he went. We don't know
That's
what
true.
he did while he was gone, because he could have actually done something important, and there was stuff in the back of the truck when he got
There
back.
was.
Well, there was stuff when he left.
Oh, there was the same
Yeah.
amount?
You know what? I'm not entirely sure, but there was
I'd have to
stuff
rewatch
under
it.
a white sheet when he left, and I was actually wondering what was he bringing with him, because it looked like barrels or boxes or something.
Have you guys, any of you, played the Walking Dead game?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
You've played
I
it.
have.
So
Yes.
they have choices, and all the choices have different repercussions. This episode seemed very similar to the game
That's
in
true.
that
You're
we
right.
had the three choices. We can either defend, we can leave,
Yeah.
or we can attack them. And it seems like the choice they made to stay is what Herschel was afraid of. Like, this place isn't worth spilling more blood over here. We should get over it. And that's when more blood was spilled. So I think the leadership is going to be really up for grabs.
But
after
if you
this.
played the game, let me also remind you that all the choices end up leading to the same
Same
thing no
conclusion.
matter
Pretty much,
what.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
That's the unfortunate thing about that game.
Spoiler.
It's a great story, but
they
yeah.
make you feel like it doesn't, but it really does.
It really
so
does.
apparently what happens would have happened anyways. And on that note, what you said too about Herschel notes and he, about Glenn, and this is a quote, "This rage is going to get you killed," about Glenn, and it ends up causing these repercussions, and kind of in a big way with this whole bonding that we see with Axel and Carole, that we start seeing fortified as they're making fortifications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been waiting all night for that,
Yeah,
haven't
you like that
But
one.
Please, that was on the spot. So Axel's kind of explaining, we get to find out why he's really in prison,
Yeah.
which was for being accused of armed robbery when all he had was a squirt gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, the cops planted that on him. The real gun. That was
Well, no,
yeah.
his
Yeah,
brother-
from his,
His
it was
brother.
his brother.
It's his
had it.
brother,
Well,
right?
they went to his
They went
brother's
to his brother's
house,
house and
and
planted
they
the
found
real
the gun, and they said it was his gun.
Right.
And it fit the description.
I like that he had a squirt gun. I don't know why that just fit his character.
It fit his
so
character
well.
very much.
I
Yeah.
love Carole got to teach him how to use a gun, which
And
was
he's
really
impressed.
interesting in
What does
that
he say?
too.
You're quite a lady, and then she's kind of like, ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we finally see him. Well, it's not finally. He's flirting once again with Carole after he now knows that she's not a lesbian.
Yeah.
But she's finally taking it and open to it because she's kind of, I think, realized he is a nice guy. He's a good
Yeah.
guy. And also Daryl's gone, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she
Why
said
not?
She's a
she
free
said,
woman.
"You're all about the truth, aren't you?" And he's like, "Yep, yes, ma'am, I am." So,
And I have to admit, I kind of like Axel with Carole better than Daryl with Carole.
I
I don't
did
know.
too.
It was
Yeah,
always a
me
weird
too.
relationship to me, Daryl and Carole. Even the way that their names rhyme together kind of annoys me a little bit, but that's okay.
I like that they had a
Because we
strong.
can't come up with a cute
friendship.
nickname for them either because
That's
their
true.
names are too similar.
It's too similar.
well, the two scenes that they had were so different than every other scene in the show. It was I wouldn't want to call it comic. It was a little comical, but it was just a very grounded and almost as if they weren't even at the prison. Like they got to escape their worries by talking to each other, and that's why it was such a shocker when that twist happened, because we were all lulled into a false sense of security listening to stories, just two people hanging out like at a campfire, just telling stories. That's really what it was.
And it was literally right in the middle of his story that he is shot in the
Oh,
head.
man.
I can't believe
As we
that.
said in the beginning of our episode, like, whoa,
Headshot.
Lou, man.
So
geez.
glad we had him last week on the show.
Yeah.
I miss
I
him
feel
already.
because that's probably why he died.
I know, I
He
know.
spilled too much information, so they reshot that.
They
scene.
reshot the scene. It's our
They reshot
fault.
the
Called
whole
them back
thing.
It's our
in.
fault.
Yeah, and I was gonna get to this comment later when we talk about comments, but we actually had Blue Jellyfish on the YouTube commenting that he was worried for Lou's job because of all the behind-the-scenes scoop he gave us last week. And oh, how right you were,
You were
Blue
so right.
Jellyfish.
Yeah.
Oh, how right you were.
AfterBuzz TV career killers.
Hey.
I'll make a button for that.
Yeah, please do.
So we've got a late comment back to Maggie on Glenn and all that and why she's mad. So this is another comment from the chat. Haley Reinhardt commenting that Maggie was mad because Glenn's pride was injured because he thought she might have been raped, and instead of being nurturing towards her and thankful for her sacrifice, he's treating her like an object and even seems incredibly angry at her for being assaulted and thus having his ego bruised. And I think that's kind of a good point. I think the objectification is specifically what I think is a great point about that.
Yeah, because he's going through his own emotion with it anyway, so he's kind of taking it out on her. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a possibility that Maggie's pregnant? I've been thinking about it for the past few episodes, just because the way she's acting, even before the kidnapping, and then...
Well, we had the scene with the baby. That
I was going to say, that would be interesting foreshadowing with the scene with the baby.
That was a really interesting scene, because it was very, very quick, and I was wondering what that scene... It just showcased Beth being a little bit more of a mother to Judith again.
Yeah.
And then Maggie was holding Judith, and then that was it, and then it just cut to the next scene.
I think it was supposed to draw some sort of emotion out of Maggie that we were supposed to pick up on.
Because she's been withdrawn from the group, and it kind of brought her together, and it brought her sister to come in and maybe realize, again, this baby seems to bring new life to most people except for Rick.
Yeah.
About you know, that there is still life going on, and here's an innocent person that we have to take care of and still get them on the right track. I was kind of wondering, because you know, they were fooling around in the tower and stuff,
not just the tower.
Well, they're following the comics close enough that like the personality shifts and things could be similar to how it went in the comics with them.
But yeah, it could be, yeah. But back to while the baby's bringing life, back to life being taken away. Let's go back to Lou, because this out of nowhere shot and killed, and the governor is there. Everything from the episode comes to a head. This turns out this is where the governor is. We're going to see Daryl and Merle coming to save the day. So everything kind of comes to this epic conclusion at the end, and we have, I think, Steven, you made a great point, and I think you should go ahead and bring it out. It's a good point.
Okay, sorry, I don't mean to rag on the episode, but it is the classic Hollywood shootout bullcrap of, okay, nobody can hit each other. Everybody's shooting assault rifles at each other, and nobody can hit each other. And then as soon as there's hundreds of zombies there, everyone's a crack shot and shoot them in the head like that. Rick can't even kill the guy in the forest. Nobody can kill the guy in the tower.
Yeah.
The governor's just standing there with power overwhelming on, like StarCraft reference, you know.
Yeah.
And then they finally get the one kill. But that's after they've killed like 50 zombies and no people who are actually a threat to them, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I mean, that's true.
And I think that's a great point.
That's a great point.
And I was so into the action after Lou got shot, though, that was just, I kind of glossed over in my head. I was like, whoa, this is amazing.
I wish I could have gotten into it. I was just literally the whole time like, come on, kill somebody.
But I think that is a great point. I was kind of thinking that, too. I was like, they have assault rifles. Why are they missing so much? Because you also got, there's moments like this that happen in the comic where they aren't that bad at shooting. There's reasons that they miss. And I felt like this didn't give us as many of reasons.
Well, other than the governor standing out in the open, everyone else was at least ducking for cover. They are faster than zombies, so I was willing to suspend enough disbelief to.
And they're hiding in the grass, laying down, so you can't see them. Where zombies are just up really tall, and their heads in clear target sight.
Well, yeah, and the humans are a lot more quick. If you noticed, even Martinez, who Rick was shooting from, he ducked behind the tree. And maybe they're just so used to the slow-moving zombies, unless they're hungry. But like we were saying earlier, we haven't seen zombies really attack recently. They've been a bit slower, so they probably just got used to that and caught them so off guard. Granted, I do think at least like somebody's leg or something should have gotten shot. And the governor, I was noticing on a few things, he had the door in front of him.
Yeah.
So who knows that maybe when we're seeing the shot go, I'm hoping he's ducking behind the door a little bit, although he has a really big ego right now. So
and I mean, Luke can't
he's
even
probably just like, try to shoot me.
And I mean, Axel can't even really shoot a gun. Oh wait, he was dead.
Two questions. How the hell did that person get up in the tower? And
that was going to be my question.
That's what I was wondering.
And whatever happened to the woman who is obviously what's her face, Karen, I think, from Woodbury?
Yeah.
That was obviously her with the mask on and everything. Oh, no, because she was
there.
No, she was still Woodbury.
Yeah. It looked like it was a woman, though.
It did look like
a woman at first.
But where did she go?
She ran out.
She ran away. She ran out from the zombie van. I'm surprised she didn't get shot as she was running.
Into the van with the gun.
But she also had body armor on, too. She had a lot
Yeah.
of body armor, so she was kind of protected. and that mysterious motorcycle helmet.
Yeah.
Well, it looked like she walked back towards the prison. I didn't see her walk away from
She
the
was
prison.
running away. She was running out. She was running back where she'd driven the van in. And let's touch on that too, because that was pretty awesome attack strategy. Bring in a truck of zombies to unleash.
Yeah.
Well, I don't get why she wouldn't just get back into the van and drive out.
I was thinking the same thing.
There was nobody. Although, did Glenn come in after the van was still in there, and then that's why she ran out? So
No.
much was going on.
There's
I
a lot
wasn't
going on.
there.
And
That way,
and to
but-
answer Steven's question, I think that the guy got in the tower because Rick had left the gate open when he was running around.
No,
outside.
Michelle
but
came
Michelle
out and
closed
closed
it.
Did she
the
close
door.
it back?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
don't forget,
Michelle
they
closed
discovered
it.
there are holes in the prison still.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's what they were kind of worried about. Is there are holes, and they're because we also had Tyrese's group getting in, and they had no idea how Tyrese's
Right.
group got in.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still trying to survey and figure out where are all the holes, because how did Tyrese's group get in, who are now gone, by the way, for people watching. They're not there anymore.
I was
Yeah.
surprised they didn't show up because we saw how Merle saved Rick's life, and that's going to help him get back in. I was actually a little surprised they didn't somehow bring in Tyrese's group, and that's how you get them in, because you do have such a, again, big comic character come in here, and you can't just let him leave.
well, I hope that he comes back, but just not seeing him in all this episode kind of scares me into thinking it was just a cameo and they moved on.
And that's it?
Yeah.
I feel
like we're getting more from him.
Yeah, I think he's coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, especially like when we're talking about where they need a leader, and he is that strong leader who could come in.
Yeah.
I gotta feel like he's going to make some sort of appearance again, but I mean that's possible that they just brought him in for a cameo. That is a good possibility. I didn't really even think about.
Or what if they stumbled upon Woodbury?
That I'm kind of hoping that happens. I'd like
That
to
would
see
be
that dynamic
interesting.
too.
I'm going to make a prediction here. I probably shouldn't. It's not the end yet. But predictions-wise, I'd say bringing into the account the other people driving on the road in the car, plus Tyrese's group leaving, I have a feeling that when the jail eventually falls, the next place Rick's group goes to, or whoever's left of it, will come upon this new area that's going to have those people from the car, that's going to have those people in Tyrese's group, and we'll see some probably old faces that we weren't expecting to see again either.
Like that family that left
Like the
in
family,
season
yeah.
one.
Yeah,
That's
I
a
would
good-
love to
good
see that
prediction.
family from season one again.
I just feel
Or
like
the
they're not
father
going
and
to.
son.
I feel like they wouldn't be that significant only because they'd have to learn a lot of English to have big
Yeah.
roles in the
Yeah, I doubt we'll ever
show.
see that group again.
Well,
And-
they
But the season
understood
one
what
family.
Daryl was saying, or maybe they just understood his tone of voice and where he was pointing
I think
to.
it was tone. If you
but-
understand Spanish and you heard enough of it, it seemed like they did not understand. They was just trying to,
They're like, just
figure
get
it
in the
out.
car.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Was anyone else annoyed though? In all reality, we knew that the group had talked about Rick's group had talked about the governor coming back to attack them. So I felt like their guard has been down because they should always have someone kind of on watch at all time. I felt like
Well, they did have that moment. Who's on watch?
Who's on watch?
Well,
yeah.
Rick was with Lori, you guys. Come on. He had
Yeah.
2 guns. Lori looked very
Rick is
healthy.
seeing
But they knew
people
he
that
was
aren't existing. You really trust him to actually spot?
I just felt like
I
it
was-
was
I
just
was being
way too light.
sarcastic.
I know.
So
To me, it was just too light because they knew that he was going to come back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
So it was just, even if you just have Rick out there, I just feel like it was just taken way too lightly.
Hey Rick, if you're here, who's on watch? Oh, don't worry, Shane and Lori got it.
So let's also talk about Daryl and Merle, who came back to help, and Merle excited to have actually gotten some help in there. This was actually a pretty good moment
It
for
was.
Merle there.
Yeah.
He got to do something at least,
He
so maybe this will be some sort of reconciliation for him into the group.
Are you kidding me?
Maybe.
He can use this, and if they want to kick him out, I saved your life, Rick, and
Yeah.
Daryl will be like, wait a minute, I was the one with the.
Well,
bow
yeah,
and arrow
I think
there."
this is the way that they'll get Merle in the group, and they'll trust Michonne now.
If they,
Yeah.
it seemed. I was gonna say Michonne seemed completely clear of any controversy
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
episode. She seems to be officially a part of the group.
Yeah.
Whatever doubt that happened last week, so far seems to be completely
Yeah.
gone.
Well, if this doesn't prove it, I don't know what will.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
just seeing her take out the katana sword and just
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
toward the end and just make a beeline. I guess she was trying to save Rick and just slicing away.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I love her. She was when I interviewed her for AfterBuzz. She was like, don't try it at home. I go, you definitely try this at home. She goes, yeah, my kitchen cabinet's kind of my practice for it. And I'm like, how awesome is that?
Yeah, guys, Kristin did actually interview the Walking Dead cast last week, so
Just check
go
it out.
check it out on our YouTube channel. And let's also talk about well, I guess like Rick, we said he was saved, and he was kind of in trouble there, but everyone kind of being badasses against the zombies, and I love that we're seeing now the walkers being used as weapons. That's
Yeah.
something new. Is
Yeah.
now they're weapons for the humans versus humans,
Yeah.
which is something different that
Yeah.
we haven't really seen before. I mean, we had the fights before, but this was like a new use of walkers are weapons now. It's more for the human versus human idea.
Yeah.
That was really smart. of them to do, actually, the group from Woodbury. I'm not saying I was happy for them, but what a great idea.
Well, a few episodes ago, when they were first when the governor was talking to Merle about what to do about the prison, he wanted to defeat any chance of hope amongst Woodbury, because he didn't want them to know that there was a prison with people living in it.
Yeah.
So what better way to ruin all hope than to make it look like everyone in the prison died to a zombie attack?
That's
Yep.
true. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good
that
point.
was
So yeah, that's a good point. All right, well, let's jump to some other things eventually, but first I do need to mention that we do this show, and we would love your feedback in any way possible, whether that be going to iTunes, going to YouTube. Please comment, please rate us, positive or negative. We just want your feedback. We just want to know what we can do to make the show better. And you guys can also go to our live chat. Go to AfterBuzzTV.com. You've heard me reading comments from the live chat. It's 9 p.m. Pacific time. That's 12 in the a.m. Eastern time. But definitely come on the live chat. We love to get your guys' feedback. We want to interact with you guys and hear what you have to say. And on that note, I do want to get to some comments from you guys that we had from iTunes. Thank you, Team Regina, Mama Little 7, Matt Diggity, and Corey the Professor for commenting. From Team Regina wanted to know, at the end of Suicide Kings, which was last episode, after Rick's freak out, if we were Tyrese's group, would we still even want to stay if we had the decision after watching Rick just completely freak out?
I would.
I would too, probably, because you're still better off, and most of that group isn't crazy.
It's the best
so.
they had it in weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think that why not? It's
You're
they
still
thought
safe.
it's totally a safe
Yeah,
place.
Which
you're in the
that
safest
makes
place.
Outside of Woodbury.
Which makes me wonder,
Right.
where the hell was Tyrese this whole episode? If we all agree on that, why isn't he's so smart? Why didn't he think that?
Maybe
way?
they're hiding out in that other section of the prison or something.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, Carole hid in a cell for a little while.
Yeah.
Maybe also seeing Rick freak out with it's Ben, right, and Alan.
Ben and
Yeah.
Maybe
Alan.
that kind of calmed them down. Like, maybe we can't take out this group.
Yeah, you'd have to wonder.
Yeah.
But so on YouTube, thank you, Addie Hennepin, Beating Hearts Baby 21, David Walker, Drelliford 69, Chris Edu, The Blue Jellyfish, and Skiamni 2008, Boltclan 3117, and Jackhammer 23 for commenting. I already read as Blue Jellyfish about Lou's job, but Blue Jellyfish also wanted to know, or thinks that Herschel's too perfect, thinks that they will kill him off, which I think we sort of commented on
We said
earlier.
that,
I mean,
yeah.
Herschel's kind of become the new Dale
Yeah.
Yeah.
in a way. He's too sensical for this group. He's making too much sense, and he wants to, or Blue Jellyfish wants to know if we think Alan and Ben will make it if they come back.
I don't think so.
I'm gonna have to say no.
No, I think they're gonna bite it.
I would think that if they do survive, they're going to be willing parts of the Woodbury militia.
Oh, that's a
That's
good
what I would
point.
think, because they
Maybe
seem
they
to
do
be.
stumble
Well, that's true
upon
because they're like the
Woodbury.
rebels within that small group. So
Exactly.
that
You
would
guys
make
want to
sense.
see something? It's on the TV right
no,
now.
we don't
Oh
want to
my
see this.
God.
No, Lou.
Oh, Lou.
This is sad.
So for those
I want
listening on
this.
iTunes, we actually have on the feed Lou right now about to get.
Oh,
And then-
again, every
then
time.
Carole
every
just
time.
gets blood all over her face.
Ugh.
Oh,
That was our reaction earlier as well.
Oh, did you also notice Carole was hiding behind the dead
Yeah.
body
Yeah.
It was
of
smart.
Axel?
And he kept
She
getting
had
he kept
to.
getting shot up too.
What
yeah.
again, what a memorable death, and
Yeah.
just to see him being riddled with bullets as a shield.
Also,
for
Axel
Carole.
being a great guy in death,
Yeah.
helping save Carol's life still.
He is.
That was a
R.I.P.
hard one. yeah.
R.I.P. Axel. We
And-
miss you already.
Finally, before we get to predictions, I do want to mention, guys, that from the team from AfterBuzz TV, we have a movie coming out of film, Serial Buddies. You can check it out. Maria Menounos is in it, as we're all huge fans of Maria's.
We love Maria.
And you guys can check out the trailer. Go to AfterBuzz TV to find the trailer location. Go to YouTube to find it on our AfterBuzz TV. We do have the YouTube trailer of it. Definitely check it out. Give it a watch. If you like serial killers, but a buddy movie, why not check it out? Buddy movie about serial killers. Totally new concept, and you guys should definitely check that out. But let's get to some predictions.
your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Great prediction. Thank you.
Yeah.
You gotta
was
make
nice.
zombie noises
That was a
while you
nice
guys do.
zombie noise.
Who do you guys think will be? Because we saw in the preview that you need some new leadership. Who out of that group? Because we saw Glenn maybe do it. Daryl's back now. Does Tyrese come back? we're gonna see a little bit leadership change. But who do you guys think is the most qualified, if you were voting?
Herschel. Right now, it's got to be Herschel.
To be the leader?
To be the leader.
Or is he just advisor for everybody?
Well, yeah, he'd have to delegate when it comes to defending the prison or doing anything, any kind of activity, since he's only got one leg. But he makes the most sense right now.
The thing is, I think he should be the leader, but no one has listened to him. Nobody. Like, really, like, Glenn didn't listen to him at all.
Glenn came back.
I mean, he came back, but he's still kind of doing his own thing.
Yeah.
And then Rick didn't really listen to him. And he does make sense. I think Herschel's been right all along, but just nobody will listen to him.
Yeah.
But if they would, he definitely should be the leader.
Yeah, are you talking about this immediate group, or can I throw Tyrese in there?
I mean, Tyrese should be the leader.
Tyrese should be the
leader. Yeah, well, it has to be Herschel, because Glenn is working off of emotion, angry emotion, so that's automatically going to make him a terrible leader, because he's going to, go crazy. So yeah, it had to be Herschel.
But I'd say Daryl has, seeing
fair.
this episode, Daryl has stepped up a big way. So
for sure.
He would probably be a good one too.
Oh, you know
I think
what?
they might
Yeah.
do Daryl because Glenn's got a lot going on still that he needs to calm down with. But I think we might see Daryl step into maybe the number one with Herschel guiding him as like the Gandalf, if you will. And then I think we'll have Glenn be the number two, how Daryl was, until Rick gets his crap together.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do think Daryl would be a great leader for the group. And I actually, my prediction is I think Tyrese is going to come back and we're going to see him doing some leadership.
I do like the idea of them stumbling upon Woodbury, and then we got Ben and Alan who joined that. And Tyrese, I think once they find out that they're attacking this prison group that he saw firsthand, that might be an interesting twist. I don't think they'll go that way, but I think that would be interesting.
And I think we're going to have Andrea return back to Rick's camp very soon.
And
Do none of you see Carl as a leader?
He's too young.
He's too
Yeah,
young.
he's too young.
He's too young.
I don't
Although
know.
a fun moment where Carl tells Rick to stop being the leader in the previews.
Yeah.
Right?
I think I think if anything, since Andrea doesn't know what happened yet, I feel that it's possible if they retaliate on Woodbury that might distance Andrea even more from the prison and be more a part of Woodbury. So
Especially
I don't know
because
if
there's
it's
a
So we're
lot
on
of
opposite
innocent
sides
people
with
there.
this.
I
Nando.
don't want to make that a prediction, but I think it'd be a really interesting twist if she saw the prisoners as retaliating as an act of aggression, and after the governor made it sound so much like he wasn't going to do anything, if all of a sudden she started siding with the governor and became more a fan of Woodbury and stayed on that side.
We did see in a preview a while back that she actually does make it to the prison. I just wonder what brings her there. If it is something that they retaliated and then she goes back to talk to them, or if it's a lot more quickly than that and she ends up.
What's the
with
nerdy
them.
guy's name?
Milton.
Milton. I always want to say Martin. I can see Milton being the one to kill the governor.
Ooh.
That's honestly what I think is going to happen, and
That would be awesome.
I'll roll outro music on that.
Do that.
Yeah, I don't know how to follow up after
Something's
that
gonna
one.
break then with Milton, that he has to see the governor's really crazy side.
I think he
maybe
already
like
does,
how in
though.
the comics, though,
I would
that
love
breaking point.
I would love to see that happen. But guys, thank you so much for joining us this week. And guys, I am Dave Klein. You can find me on Twitter at @TheDaveKlein. That's KLEIN, or go to my website djk-online.com.
I'm Nando Velasquez, Nando Vel on Twitter, and that's NandoVel.
Hey, I'm Derrial Christon. You can get me at DerrialChriston on Twitter and Facebook.
And I'm Kristin Carole. You can find me on Twitter, Kristin Carole with an E, 13, or you can go on my website, thefan2c.com.
And Steven.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter at Stephen Lemieux. You can check out my website at srlemieuxphoto.squarespace.com. And yeah.
All right, guys. Bite you later.
Bye you later.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.